right, welcome everybody to a Failure to Stop Breakdown Friday. I am in Charlotte, North Carolina, doing a wedding or attending a wedding. I'm not doing a wedding, I'm attending a wedding. But we wanted to go back and recap one of the OG breakdowns from a few years ago that we did on Casey Anthony. Since Casey Anthony's big in the news, we wanted to re-release that since I'm out of town. Today's show is brought to you by ghostbed.com/Wolfpack and also Pig Latin, a seriously funny, true story. You can go online right now and pre-order it. That would help out tremendously on the pre-order because I'm trying to get that marketing bonus from Simon Schuster. If I can get the pre-orders out before August, if I reach a certain number, I'll get that bonus. And so listen, if you order the book and you DM me, I'm going to send you a custom bookmark made by Jonathan Bates, signed and autographed by me for the book. If you have a friend buy the book, you are going to get an additional bookmark designed by Jonathan Bates. Of course, if you do a third book, you'll get a third one. And then all you have to do for any other one, for the fourth one and the last one, is you have to give a 5-star rating and a review on Failure to Stop. And actually, that's the way you get the third one anyway. So, like, I should just do it like this. Like, first book you buy, you get Eric Tansey. If you give us a 5-star rating and review and take a picture, or you follow us on Instagram, and if you've already done that, then you tag a friend on Instagram and DM me. I will send you the second one. If you get a friend to buy a book, I will give you a third one. And of course, the third book, you'll get the fourth bookmark, or so on and so forth. I don't know. It's just so you can collect them all type deal. Of course, you'll be able to collect them at the book signings as we do the book tour. But hey, listen, I don't want to waste your time anymore. Check out ghostbed.com. I don't think we were sponsored by Factor Meals back then, so let me do that really fast. Factormeals.com. Meal planning to the next level. Fresh, never frozen, delivered right to your door, prepackaged. You put them in a microwave for 2 minutes. Look, you want to get lean and mean like me? Summer's coming, baby. Don't wait. Don't hesitate to get that summer body. Start your meal plan today. You can do calorie conscious, protein heavy. You can do vegan, vegetarian. You can do all the things. You do lunch and breakfast and dinner. You name it, you can do it. Head over to factormeals.com. Use the promo code Wolfpack50 for 50% off your first week. And start your meal planning today. These things are amazing. They're delicious. Josh, our producer, is already up on them. He's getting lean and mean, baby. Everybody's doing the Factor Meals game. So head over to Factor Meals, head over to GhostBed. All right, without further ado, here is a very old throwback breakdown. Back in the OG, I'm nervous. I don't want to hear this because, oh man, I was not a great podcaster back then, but I do remember it being a pretty good breakdown. Here it is, the Casey Anthony breakdown. Take it away, Jonathan.
The growing calls across the nation to defund the police.
To end policing as we know it.
Off the charts violence in New York City. 11 people shot in just 8 hours on
This is
Sunday.
about the police officers who every single day put on that uniform and they run towards danger when we run away from it.
Guns up. Giddy up. We both have colds, it sounds like. We both got throat problems going on. Guns up, giddy up, no matter what, though. We both are a little under the weather, but we're both here.
I sound like a real transvestite today.
Welcome to the Failure to Stop podcast, the #1 show where law enforcement meets culture. Every Friday, we break down cases, current, past, eventually, with enough technology, the future. We'll see what happens. Depends on what Elon does next. We'll let you know. But this show is also the only law enforcement related podcast that is Ministry of Truth approved. We went through the red tape necessary. Biden has now said that this podcast is verified true. So you can trust everything that you hear as completely unapologetically factual. You don't need to check it because it's already been approved. So that's good.
Yeah. I'm hoping that this episode doesn't kill us.
Why would this one kill us?
Because our podcast is still in its infancy and we're talking about Casey Anthony.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there. It's in bad taste, as of course I would expect no less, but good job. That's right. Today we are talking about the Casey Anthony case. Why? Well, a couple of reasons. One is that she's working on this documentary apparently where she's going to tell, quote unquote, her truth, and we'll compare Casey Anthony's truth with reality. on this episode. And a lot of our listeners may be vaguely familiar with the lady pictured behind Eric Tansey on his wall, but not really know the details. It's one of those things where it's like a cultural thing, but no one's ever really looked into it. So we'll help you understand what the heck happened in this case and whether it's true or false that she's innocent. Well, we'll talk all about that. We've got some housekeeping items. First of all, again, if you are listening to the show, you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or somewhere else, we appreciate you listening. We thank you for everyone who drops that rating and review and subscribes to the show, follows the show, so the downloads are automatic. All of those things help the show to grow. And we have this is our main show where we break down cases, but we got some reviews. The Wolf Pack never disappoints. So you ready for that, Eric?
Absolutely. 100%.
All right, this one involves you, so you can read this one.
No Nick fucking names. Oh God, this is gonna be so hard.
Peter Brady.
Okay, I have to talk like this so I can not. I've lost my voice. So, half speed. I completely enjoy your shows almost as much as mayonnaise slathered on my ghost bed. But if you'd like to cry laughing, listen to an episode 80 in half speed. Listen to episode 80 in half speed. The best part is about 15 minutes in when Skate Daddy Tansey is talking about his son's fishing escapade. Great content. I guess I have to do it. I don't even remember what I said about my kids.
When she smacks him, it's like, oh, Dad, stop.
Who the fuck thinks to do that? What kind of dark sadistic fuck said, you know what? That would sound
I should
great.
listen to this at half speed and see how that is. Play that again. That's really funny.
Oh my God.
When she smacks him, it's like, oh, Dad, stop. When she smacks him, it's like,
I wish ringtones were a thing we could sell still nowadays.
Oh yeah, we could totally sell this ringtone.
I married Casey Anthony.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
That's
Nice.
so
Gosh,
funny.
this is why we read your guys' reviews, because you guys put a lot of effort into these things and we want to show our appreciation. So like people that are listening, you stumble into this show and you're like, oh, Casey Anthony. You're like, well, why aren't these guys talking about her yet? Listen, this is a fan. Honestly, I was thinking about this today. This is a fan driven show. I want this show for the listeners to feel like they're a part of the show, right? Like I want them to feel like, man, they reference what we talk about, and this review matters. This isn't just us asking for a review for ourselves. We're all in this, and I like the inside jokes. I enjoy the sense of community. I love the Wolf Pack, and I think that's why we do this. That's why the first part of the show, we take the time to do this before we dive into the full.
I mean, that's what I like so much about the live show that we did in Austin when I got to go to Austin. Is like I felt like, even though I never met our fans in real life, having our fans there at the live show, I felt like I knew them forever because they would reference themselves by who they are in the chats, their chat names, and then we would go back and we had endless things to talk about, like endless jokes. So it's, you know, it really is a fan based show. Man, this is gonna be really hard to talk today.
Yeah, you're the primary speaker today too.
Struggling.
So
you
need
keep
some
talking.
throat
Let me
co-
drink some water.
You need some throat coat tea. All right, what's the next review here? ISP K9 Zeke, 5 stars. This podcast makes me more excited than getting called to a half-naked woman walking down the streets covered in her own feces. That's what it's all about right there. If we can beat that, then we're on the right track. 12345 gives it 5 stars. Public hangings or else. Failure to stop is 5 stars, period. If you don't know, then get educated or you can leave, in quotes. I think I said that right.
Yes.
I look forward to every week's educational shenanigans while hoarding my juicy rip packs. And if you do anything anything other than like, subscribe, and comment, then public hangings will return. I wish for the day we can win prizes and reach into Skate Daddy Transey's snack bag for a good old snack time. Seriously, a top-ranked podcast here, gents. That'd be a cool segment. Is Skate Daddy snacks, and we do some giveaways. You reach into the bag and we give away something that comes out of the bag to listeners. That's a cool little segment opportunity right there.
Hey, little boy, do a kickflip and come and look in Skate Daddy's bag.
Hey,
for
kids.
prize.
Who knows how to do a kickflip?
Yeah. Who wants to reach into Skate Daddy's little snack bag and have a little juicy snack?
All right, those are the reviews.
Oh no.
All right. That about covers it. But what do you got for us, man? Casey Anthony, here we go. Buckle up.
Buckle up.
I don't know much about this case, to be honest with you. Like I remember it. I know the basics, but I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about the case myself.
Yeah, it shocks me how many people weren't really that familiar with the case. I guess maybe it's because I'm from Florida. I was really invested in it and kind of knew everything about it from them. But even going back now, however many years it's been, I mean, this happened in 2008. I actually listened to the trial. I've been able to listen to other podcasts about it, do my own research. And there's just a lot about this case that now I understand why the jury may have been as confused as they were. So for all this time, I've thought, what dumbass jury who could have acquitted her? I don't understand that. And now I better understand that because these lawyers were really, really good. And the investigating team in Casey Anthony's corner were great. Matter of fact, one of those investigators that I learned that Casey Anthony then went on to work for was actually the investigator on the O.J. Simpson trial that found the police call with all the N-words in it. That really kind of turned the case against the police and the evidence. So
intriguing. Now,
yeah,
how did she afford? Forgive me if I ask stupid questions, but how did some random chick from Florida afford such good defense attorneys?
Well, I think that Casey Anthony was pretty enough. I think she was at the social status class that she was right. I think the way her parents looked, this whole thing was a salacious case to begin with. But as we begin to unfold this case, you're going to see that this is way more than just a random missing girl that's dead. I mean, so if this was a National Enquirer magazine, this would take up like a full year of articles of all the sensational, bombshell type evidence that just kept coming out. And just, it was a soap opera case. And it really was the O.J. Simpson trial of the 2000s, where it kept, the shock and awe never stopped. And I think when you have something like that, when the stars align that way, people want to jump on board. I mean, you have, even at one point of the story, we're going to see that a bounty hunter, a well-known bounty hunter from California is going to get involved in this case and actually bond her out for $500,000 because he wants the publicity. I think everybody wanted to kind of get their hands on a part of this. So I think that's where she was able to get those lawyers because she's never going to pay them back.
Or has she?
Well, she's working for one of
the world's most callous knees.
You know what? I don't think she'd be the type, to be honest with you. I think she's a very selfish lover. I don't think she's a selfless lover, if that makes sense. We'll get into
I don't know.
it.
I don't know anything about it. I know that I heard some jail recordings because when we were looking for that today, and she doesn't sound like a super nice person.
She's not. She's not a nice person. And if you really look into the case, and you know how I do, I really try to look at the totality of the case and not just what makes mainstream media, because you don't know what kind of picture mainstream media is trying to paint. And they're always trying to paint a picture. And so with this, when I saw all of mainstream media trying to paint her as the guilty one, I wanted to see why did they need her to be the guilty one? Why was it important for her to be the guilty one? Because I believe in just looking at the facts. And, as I look at the facts, I like to go all the way back to where things started, because to really know somebody, you've got to know their history, you got to know their past. And with Casey Anthony, what I've really discovered is that this family is a problem. This family is one of the most toxic families I've ever investigated. And I don't know if that's like a normal thing in America. It's just maybe something I'm blind to, but I never had these issues with my family. And I mean, these are pretty big issues. So, I mean, on its face, and if you listen to the media talk about this case, on its face, she's the all-American girl, right? She's tall, she's pretty, she's an athlete in high school. Um, her parents, her dad was very middle class, was a veteran in the military, served 10 years as a police officer. Um, her
Interesting. So
mom
she's
was
a
a
cops
nurse.
cops kid?
She was. I mean, well, he stopped being a cop when she was born, so she never knew him as a cop.
Oh, okay.
She never knew him as a cop. What she
Gotcha.
knew him as, and this was in Trimble County, Ohio. But what she's gonna know him as is a car salesman, and maybe that's where it starts. I don't know. Um, but her father is George, and then her mom's gonna be Cindy. Her name is Casey, and her daughter's name is Kaylee. So you got Kaylee, Cindy, and Casey, which is gonna get a little confusing. So I'll probably refer to Kaylee mostly as being the daughter or the child, the toddler, whatever. So we don't get confused with Kaylee and Cindy, because to talk about this case, we're really going to talk a lot about the both of them. But anyway, George was in the military. He gets out of the military, becomes a cop for 10 years. And then as the story kind of goes, as I see it, Cindy wants to be a stay-at-home mom. And that's what
Okay.
she's always aspired to be, which is not too far off from my life, right? I was in the military. I was then a cop. My wife was very adamant that she wants to be a stay-at-home mom. So, so on its face, again, very kind of this all-American dream type household. So she's a nurse at the time. She leaves being a nurse, and she wants him to not be a cop anymore because she wants more money. When she stops being a nurse, that's kind of
Ain't
when
that the truth?
things, yeah, she's like, you're not making enough money, so let's go ahead and find something else for you to do. And the mom is going to have a lot of like, maybe I'm not a psychologist, but or a biologist, but I'm going to say that she's got some narcissistic tendencies as well. She's very into what people think about her and saving her own face.
Like a
And the,
keeping up with the Joneses sort of a
yes,
thing, like
yes,
what she
that's
wants
it.
to she wants the 2.5 kids with a picket fence and
Yep.
wants people to think that they're well off.
Yes.
Okay.
100%. You are absolutely correct. And the dad is also the kind of the same way. So that's when things start to happen. He leaves the police department and he goes to work for a car dealership, and it's not really working out that well. And I don't know.
Selling cars doesn't seem like an easy biz, man.
It's not. And I think you have to be a real shady kind of guy to do that. It takes a
Yeah,
shady
I don't
type
know.
of person to really be successful at selling cars, I think, at least long term. I think any reasonable person gets into car sales and says, you know what, this is shady. I'm not going to do it anymore. But he does it not for very long. It doesn't work out for him. And so then he goes on to actually be a pest control person.
Okay.
Where he sprays for bugs, right? So you've gone from the military to being a cop to being a car salesman. It's like you're going backwards in this life.
I don't
And
know. I mean, it
that's
could
kind
be
of pretty
could be
fun.
some really good money in spraying for bugs.
Maybe. But if you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, I would argue that maybe being a police officer would be the more noble of professions out of those groups.
Maybe, but it's all about the Benjamins, you know?
All about the Benjamins. So they fall into debt. And matter of fact, they're going to foreclose on a house.
Oh wow. All right. So
And
they're definitely going in the wrong direction from their
they're
dreams.
definitely going the wrong way. And this is kind of where they're at now. She's got a brother named Lee Anthony, and he's gonna come into this case, but not in a real significant way. I mean, in a very significant way, but not. There's not a lot about him in the case. Um, s- uh, Casey was born in Ohio, in Warren, Ohio, and then they're going to move to Florida. And so the majority of her life is going to be in Orlando. So when she's in high school, and that's about as far back as I can go on this case is high school. I don't know what she was like in elementary school or in middle school, but in high school, this is where you really start to see this weird pattern of kind of like behavior, this lying, this narcissism. So it's about 3 days before graduation, and mom, old Cindy, realizes that she doesn't have her cap and gown yet, and the school is supposed to send it. And she keeps asking Casey about this cap and gown. And 3 days before she's about to walk, George and Cindy get a call to the high school. And one of the guidance counselors sits down and says, hey, listen, we haven't talked to you guys. We sent multiple letters home with Casey. We haven't been able to get in contact with you, but we need to know what you're going to do, if you're doing something over the summer with Casey, or is she just going to go to school next year? And they're kind of like, what are you talking about? She graduates in 3 days. And they're like, au contraire, she is not going to graduate. She is missing credits. Now, Casey tells Cindy, oh, it was an online course. And this is 2008. So, the whole online thing was kind of new to everybody.
Yeah, it
And so
seemed like it.
she tells Cindy, her mom, that she was supposed to take an online course that she didn't quite finish, and therefore she's only missing like a half credit. Now, at this time, I'm going to bring in my Vanna White for the day, which is Boston Joe, who was also on the Drinking Bros podcast. Come on up here, Boston. And Boston Joe's got a whiteboard that I have put together, and this whiteboard is called Lies of Casey. And every time I tell a lie, he's gonna have to really pay attention to today's show. Every time I tell one of Casey's lies, he's gonna put a tick mark on the board of shame, of Casey's shame. So right now we're gonna go with our first lie, which is she's not graduating high school. So give us a tick mark there. Not graduating high school. So mom thinks she's graduating, she's not. So thank you, Joe. So she tells mom, I'm gonna graduate, not really gonna happen. And in fact, we're gonna have to add another tick mark here. Not only is she only not one credit behind, but she's many credits behind. No fucking chance. So she can't even complete school over the summer. She never graduates high school. But Cindy has a graduation party for her anyway.
Okay.
On graduation day.
So they're buried in debt to the point of foreclosure on a home. They realize their daughter's lying to them, and they decide that the smart thing to do, the wise thing to do, is to throw a party anyway that's going to cost them money to throw for a kid that's not graduating.
Right.
Got it.
Now, also remember that 2006, 2008 was when we had the big recession here in the United States. So he's not the only person that's struggling financially at this time, especially in Florida. Florida was hit very hard with that. So he is taking out a couple of different mortgages on his house or something like that. Anyway, he's working his own deals, but he wasn't completely honest with Cindy during this time. George wasn't. And so a lot of these things Cindy's kind of naive to, or she, I would say, has her blinders on too. Now you've got your daughter who's lying to you, and so she doesn't want to do the college or the high school thing. She can't finish high school, but she has this graduation party. That shows me that mom's a little bit delusional as well already. So mom has this party where she receives all these gifts and everything for graduating high school, but she's not fucking graduating high school. So she doesn't graduate high school, and she goes in the summer. She gets a job, or at least what she tells people is that she has a job at the Universal Studios. And at Universal Studios, she's a photographer. And then when questioned more from her mom about this job, she is really going to just be the person that sells the photos that are taken from a tripod of when you're like going down the roller coaster.
Okay.
Which is a job that you get in the summer while you're in high school.
Correct.
Not when you graduate high school. So that's what she's doing. Now she's 18. She turns 19. She's got a boyfriend who I reached out to. And he sent me a nice message, shooting me down, not wanting to come on the show. He doesn't go on shows. He doesn't want to talk about it. It was the worst time of his life. And it was a very noble response to my request for him to come on the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
It was
So
very
I guess
noble.
it's recent.
Yeah. I tried to get him on the show on Wednesday, and we had a nice little back and forth. And and I just left him alone. I said, "Hey, man, that was the most noble of answers. I respect that. I'm not even going to ask anything else of you." So I just, that shows to me that this guy was actually this is probably the realest person in the whole case. But anyway, she starts dating this guy, and his name is Jesse Grund, and he owns a physical fitness company right now, which is pretty cool. So I was following him on social media. But she's going to get pregnant, allegedly, by Jesse Grund. Allegedly. So she gets pregnant, and when she's 19, and then here's something else that happens. She doesn't tell the parents, even though she's living with mom and dad. She doesn't tell the parents that she's pregnant, and it isn't until Cindy's friend comes up to her and says, "Wow, I didn't know Casey was expecting." And Cindy's kind of like, "What are you talking about? She's not." And that's when the friend is like, red flag, red flag. And she sits down with Cindy and says, honey, she's 100% pregnant. Like, Casey's a very small girl. She's at least 4 months pregnant. She's got that bump. She's got that, what's that rich guy that Musk has been trolling? Bill Gates.
Bill Gates.
She's got the Bill Gates bump going on.
The Bill Gates bump, the baby bump.
The baby bump. The Bill Gates baby bump. And this is when Cindy's friend decides that Cindy needs to go to therapy. And so Cindy actually does try to get a therapist. And the
Why does Cindy need to go to therapy?
Because she's, and
In
again,
denial?
probably in denial. And these are the only 2 cases I could find of this denial. But I'm sure that if her best friend is like, oh, honey, you really need to get therapy because you think everything.
Do we
is
need a tick?
sunshine and
Do we need
roses.
a tick marker for the pregnancy?
Yep. You want to bring it up there?
And do we count a third lie for the credits?
How many lies do we have, Joe? He
We only
has
have
4
one
lies.
so far.
Joe's
What?
got 4.
Oh, I haven't been tracking them.
Okay. So
I haven't
actually,
seen them go on the
Joe,
board.
just bring your chair over here and it'll be awkward. Just sit behind me with the board. It'll be funnier that way. So we're up to 4 tick marks on her right now. So Cindy goes to therapy, and as I read it, the therapist is kind of doing like taking the hard stance, like, okay, here are the facts of your life. Your life actually sucks. And Cindy doesn't want any part of it. This is just what I can tell. And so Cindy's like, fuck it, I'm not doing this shit anymore. So she doesn't, but Casey is preggo, and she's allegedly pregnant with Jesse Groon's baby. She has Casey Anthony. She has Kaylee Anthony, the daughter, in June. Oh, sorry. Let me get to my dates here. She ends up having Casey July. Oh God. I'm sorry. 2005, August 2005, Kaylee Marie Anthony is born. And now she starts to come out.
Why did you say allegedly?
Because after
It's not
Kaylee
his?
is born, she is engaged to Jesse, and Jesse's like in love with this little girl. But as they start to have fights, Casey then starts to say that this isn't Jesse's baby, that it's somebody else's baby.
Okay.
So we're just gonna mark that as a lie.
But like, is it a lie?
She's
Or
lying
we don't
about
know?
it. We don't know, but there's a lie there. Like, she's said that it
They-
was Jesse's baby. Now she's saying
They were
it's
never
not Jesse's
able to
baby.
test who the dad was?
Well, as far as I know, they did not. The only person that was tested to see whose baby it was during the trial was George and Lee, her brother.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. So
They tested the dad and the brother to see if they were the parents?
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So,
This is getting weird. I definitely don't know much about Casey Anthony, I see.
so Casey pretty much raises Kaylee at
But wait a second. 2005 the kid was born?
Yeah.
I thought the foreclosure stuff was happening in 2008.
No, yeah, the 2008 is when this whole shit goes down. So the foreclosures have been happening a while. There's been like 5 foreclosures, but he saves them. The house doesn't actually foreclose until after. I think he foreclosed on 2 houses, but he was going through foreclosure like 5 different times. So it was a bunch. They're having money problems, big money problems. But Kaylee is born in August 2005. She's living with the parents. Mom is allegedly working at Universal Studios. June 16th on Father's Day. We'll just get into this case right now. But June 16th, Father's Day, Casey and George get in a fight, a verbal altercation.
Okay.
And Casey was supposed to be going on a mini vacation. All right. Now, in this time frame, I've read reports of the moms giving money. Casey was taking money from her grandmother's credit card, which all these things she was able to say, like the card got stolen. She's got a story for everything. She took some money from a friend, which she had an excuse for that. So she's really kind of deceiving everybody around her in this, 2-year time frame between graduation and this moment.
Mhm.
Then she gets in a fight with dad. She's going on a mini vacation. Who's going to fucking pay for that? Not sure. But she's going to go to Jacksonville, Florida on mini vacay. So she has this fight on Father's Day, and she leaves Dad's house all pissed off, which was actually June 15th into the 16th. So it was that whole weekend. So she leaves, and that's the last time anybody's ever going to see Kaylee alive. So she leaves and says she's in Jacksonville having a party. The mom, Cindy, calls and checks up on the toddler as much as she can. And every time she calls, Casey says, oh, she's at Disney World and then she'll say a friend's name that the mom wasn't familiar with. So there you go. There's a lie. Then she calls again and says, hey, I want to talk to Kaylee. And she says, oh, this time she's at Universal Studios with her babysitter, which was a lie. So there's another tick mark. We keeping up with these tick marks? Then she calls again and she says, this time she's at Disney again. And the mom is like, what the fuck is going on? Well, July 15th. All right. So we're 30 days later. Remember, she left June 15th. Now we're at July 15th, 2008. The family learns that Casey's car has been impounded, and it was impounded from a cash, like one of those cash loan places, like Get Cash Now type places. It was impounded from a car lot, one of these Get Cash Now car lots, and that George needed to come and retrieve the car. And they're like, wait, where's the car? Where's Casey? The car's in Orlando. Casey's supposed to be in Jacksonville. Or, well, she went to Jacksonville, then she came back and she's got this new babysitter and everything. So Cindy calls Casey, and Casey comes out to mom and says, I don't know where Kaylee is, my daughter. I don't know. I haven't seen her in 30 days. I haven't seen her since my Jacksonville trip, but I'm working on it. I'm trying to find her. So
I'm working on it. Listen, Mom, I haven't seen my 3-year-old in 30 days. I'm getting a little concerned, but I'm working on it.
Yeah. She actually says to the investigators that she felt she could do a better job finding her daughter than the cops could because she doesn't trust cops. Perfect. Okay. Can we play the 911 audio?
I have to make sure it's the right one. I couldn't label them on here.
That's okay.
When please just sound being recorded, I can help you.
Nope, that's a jail call.
Is it?
Yep.
Hello. Hello, this is a free call from.
Nope, that's a jail call.
That's a jail call. This one's the 911 call.
Hi, I drove to the police department here on Pershing, but you guys are closed. I need to bring someone into the police department. Can you tell me where I can?
That's not it.
One I can.
There are 3 911 calls, I think.
Oh, the most famous 911 call one.
No, I'm not giving you another day. I've given you a month.
No.
The Orlando Sheriff's Department. Her name. Her name.
There's like a million 911 calls that were up. So.
And you said you have the vehicle back? Yes.
All right.
Is this it?
No.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's okay. The famous 911 call is that the mom calls in and says that her granddaughter has been missing for 30 days, and she just picked up the car from the impound lot, and it smells like a damn body has been in the car. And Cindy is obviously very distraught and very upset during this 911 call. And so, I think that's pretty telling because we know what a dead body smells like, right, Mike? And
it's very, very distinct.
Very distinct. And so when the mom, who was a nurse, and the dad, who was a cop for 10 years, I would expect that those two probably have a good idea what a dead body smells like. And so now Cindy is calling 911 saying that we just picked up a car, our car from an impound lot. And we've just learned that our daughter doesn't know where her daughter is and hasn't known for 30 days. And the car smells like a damn body's been inside it. And he'll go on later to testify that he was afraid to open the trunk because he thought he knew what he was going to see when he opened the trunk. Now they opened the trunk and there was obviously nothing in there. There was no body or anything like that. So, this is where we're at. Casey then comes out with this story that she left the baby with a babysitter. And this is where the story gets pretty weird if it's not already weird. So she swears that she left it with this woman, her babysitter, whose name is Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez. Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez. I don't know that that's a common name. Somebody says that, the defense in this case says that that's a very common name in Florida.
No, what? I don't know.
I don't think that Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez, I'm not saying that they don't exist, but I don't know that it's like a common name like Ashley.
Super common spelling.
And the reason why that's important is because Casey takes the lead investigators on a couple of different wild goose chases. So she claimed that over the last 30 days, she had been working at Universal Studios again, and she had gotten promoted. So she's no longer the photographer. She's in charge of marketing. And
charge of marketing?
Yes. So she goes from
for all of Universal Studios or just what?
I don't know.
So she doesn't have a high school education. She's not. No. She hasn't completed a high school education, but she has now been promoted to director of marketing at Universal Studios.
Yes.
We're adding these on the hash marks, right?
Right. Are you adding these on the
what's our lie count up to now?
What are we up to now on lies? I have 7, but I'm sure I've heard more. There's 7, but he's heard more.
Well, as long as we have a rough objective
estimate
here.
Yeah.
Because when Casey comes on this documentary and tells her truth, we just have to make sure we compare her truth,
yes,
air quotes, to the number of lies that we confirm in our investigation today.
Well, it's great because when you get into the actual trial, she has an answer for every single one of these lies. But it's pretty obvious that she's answering the lies with lies. So because she's never actually coming out and saying, oh yeah, I lied. She's coming out with like some kind of retardation of the lie. So she's working at Universal Studios. She's in charge of marketing, and her child was left with Zenaida Fernandez and Gonzalez. So these lead investigators, they first go to an uninhibited apartment of a nanny that doesn't exist. Shocker. But during the investigation, they learned that Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez had actually applied to live at that apartment complex.
Okay.
So that kind of goes into question, and I don't think that question's ever been answered, is how did Casey know that there was a Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez trying to move into an apartment that she could use that name? And when she takes investigators to that apartment, they can go to an apartment that once at one time was supposed to belong to Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez, but didn't. So they think that maybe she came across some paperwork somehow. Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez doesn't know Casey Anthony. She's never seen Casey Anthony. She's never had a conversation with Casey Anthony. And matter of fact, is suing Casey Anthony for defamation of name because, when she came out to say that Zenaida Gonzalez was the babysitter, all of a sudden Zenaida was just, swarmed by the media. She couldn't get a job. People were calling her a piece of shit because it was, the trial was a very long time.
Yeah.
They demonized her and she had nothing to do with this. She's had no take in this. But the only question that's never really been answered is, how did she know that there was a Zenaida somehow attached to this apartment? Like, is that just pure luck? Because she didn't live there for months and months. They didn't say exactly how long, but their no Zenaida had lived there for months and months and months. But, maybe it's just she said that there's Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez and they go to this apartment and come to find out in the last year or so, their one had lived there. It's pretty odd there. So they realized that there is no Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez that's been babysitting her child in the last month because the only Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez that ever lived in that apartment has moved away, in months prior to this, anything happened. So there's no way that Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez has Kaylee because Kaylee was last seen in June and the Zenaida chick was way out before them. So now the cops go to Universal Studios and they walk through the front gate and she begins to go down a series of corridors and hallways, shouting out people's names. Mark, what's up, dude? Fist bumping, right? Come to find out later that every name that she shot out and every dude that she shook hands with or gave a hug to, that was not their real name, and they don't know who she is.
Man, this is like Catch Me If You Can, sorta, but
So just
only
go ahead and
not
add
as
like
good.
5 tick marks for that.
I was about to say, like, let's just assume that she faked out 5 people at Universal Studios in front of the cops, right? So, like, yeah, let's add 5 tick marks, 5 lies.
Okay, so now at this point, all right, at this point in time, we're a couple of days into Casey being missing. And
Kaylee
being missing. It's so confusing. And what does Casey do? She goes to
She gets promoted again.
She gets on MySpace.
She's a vice president of Disney now.
She gets on MySpace. Oh, by the way, yes, they wander around. They wander around Universal until she gets tired, and they're like, she's like, actually, I don't work here. Like, but she took him to several different offices and corridors, tried several different times, and everybody's like, nope, and she kept being like, well, maybe, and they're like, nope, you don't work here. And then she'd go to another office and be like, this is the office I work at.
So when the cops do show up, eventually, after walking through all this stuff, she is forced to say, yeah, I don't work here.
Yeah. Now, the mom, Cindy, says that she did work there, but then she had the baby and she was on pregnancy leave, and then she just didn't return, and they just took her off the books, and that's why there's the confusion there. That's what they use in court.
The mom that didn't even know that she was pregnant.
Right.
Yeah. So she's super reliable source. The mom that threw her a graduation party when she didn't graduate.
Right.
Knowing
And so now they've got
I really want to know now what Tom's involvement from MySpace was in all this.
So
that explains the look in Tom's profile pic. He looks like he was just caught in the Casey Anthony case.
She jumps on MySpace and starts posting pictures of her going to a hot body contest.
Okay.
In Orlando. Throw those pictures up on the here she is now. And our daughter's missing. Well, yeah, let's get that going. She's got the cigar, she's got the see-through shirt, she's got a bottle of whiskey there. Oh, and the little girl giving her a kiss. I mean, shit's not looking good, dude. And she's out partying.
This is all on the heels of her missing 3-year-old daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and a jury finds her not guilty.
We're going to get to that.
I'm excited. I'm excited.
We're going to get to that.
Minus the fact that a child is dead. I'm excited. Yeah.
Right. So, there's no Universal Studios. None of this exists. Finally, on July 22nd, remember this thing started on June 15th when she disappears, June 16th. Now we're up to July 22nd. Casey is declared a person of interest at a bond hearing. They introduce evidence that a cadaver dog had zeroed in on an odor of human decomposition in the car trunk of Casey Anthony's vehicle.
Okay.
As well as Cindy's admission that they had all seen Kaylee after June 9th. Although Casey is being held on relatively minor charges, the judge is disturbed enough by the evidence and the young mother's seemingly indifferent behavior, right? Going to a hot body contest. So he sets bail at $500.
Do you have any of statements from her at all about like any justification as to why she's just chilling out at hot body contests? Because
everybody, her lawyer, bless his heart, I don't know how he sleeps at night, but he says that everybody, and this is going to be very interesting in the case too, because
are you going to say everybody grieves differently?
Yes, but he also like contradicts himself, and the jury doesn't catch it. I don't know if not a lot of people did catch it, but I remember his opening statements. His big argument was that everybody grieves different, and there's just no way to know. We know how a reasonable person grieves, but this isn't a reasonable case. This is a case like none other. So she's not dead yet. She's just missing, and she's got these grandiose ideas that she might still be alive. So,
no normal parent would be doing anything except 100%. The only time I think a normal parent would even sleep would be like you'd have to be medically induced into sleep, or I mean, you'd be literally going out of your mind because you probably couldn't sleep if your kid was missing, and you like there would be nothing would occupy your attention. Food, sleep, all the basic normalcy of life would be out the window, and you would have to be forced into those things, like probably by medication to even make it happen, or total and utter exhaustion.
Yes.
That's a reasonable person. That's
Right.
normal.
Right. But he says this is abnormal. So she's dealing with things differently. So now there's
can
this
say that.
massive search. There's this massive search where you've got the Florida boys with their swamp trucks and their four-wheelers, and they are searching hundreds
The
and hundreds
Island
of
Boys?
people. The
I'm
Island
an island
Boys. No,
boy.
those guys are way too. Yeah, they're not going to get in the swamps of Florida. These pussies aren't getting off of TikTok. So, anyway, they've got all these guys looking for Kaylee. Everybody's trying to find them. Now, they also have a witness, which is the neighbor of George, Anthony. Now, remember, Casey at the time of this whole thing was living at the parents' house. Now, here's an interesting fact that around June 15th or 16th, she went over to the neighbor's house and asked to borrow a shovel. During the investigation, they found 5 holes dug in the backyard about the size of that you could fit a body in, but not deep enough and just consumed by roots that were unexplained. She says,
I didn't. You brought up here that caught my attention. This whole time she lives at home.
Yes, she lives with her parents. Her parents not okay. So up until Father's Day, she lived at home. And grandma and grandpa, Cindy and George, were the primary caretakers.
Okay, where was the babysitter that doesn't exist supposed to have been watching?
That was in that 30-day period where we don't see Casey, when Casey's allegedly on this mini vacation in Jacksonville and then is coming back and has worked at Universal Studios and has her own caretaker.
Right, but she had told the parents that while Kaylee wasn't with her, she was at or at Disney or whatever with other people.
Yes.
So where was she supposed to be staying the night? With the babysitter?
Kaylee was always staying with friends or with because essentially there was a fight that broke out on Father's Day, and I guess you could assume she moved out.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Like, I'm leaving.
I'm trying to hold this together here to understand it in my head.
Yes. So she leaves, and that's where that 30-day. But prior to that, George and Cindy were the primary kind of caretakers of Casey and Kaylee, because obviously Casey doesn't have a fucking job, but they think she does, but she doesn't make a lot of money. So, and also in that time frame leading up to the up to the disappearance, before she walked out in June, she'd also come to the mom and saying, I know who Kaylee's real dad is. I found his obituary. And she goes through this like time of mourning over this dead boyfriend that could possibly have been Kaylee's real dad, but now he's dead in a car crash. So there was that kind of bizarro thing that went into the story, which I didn't quite understand. Either way, just a lot of lies and weird stuff going on. So that day, the June 15th, she had asked the neighbor of George if she could borrow a shovel. He testified to that. And then she came out with something that she was trying to dig holes for. I can't remember what her excuse was, but she had an excuse. She was trying to do something. She was trying to dig up certain plants or something like that, or she was digging something to plant certain plants. But, we can all kind of assume that they're maybe trying to bury a body, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why would you borrow a shovel? Anyway, so the bond happens. She gets set at bond. She gets put in jail because of these weird things, and this really fancy bounty hunter is going to come and bail her out. And the way he bails her out at $500,000, and the reason why he says he bails her out is because he thought that and his name is Leonard Padilla, and he believes that she's going to lead him to Kaylee. So he had made a deal with her that if she tells him where Kaylee is, he'll bond her out. but he bonds her out and she does no such thing. And that was on August 20th. So July 22nd is when she gets put into jail. August 20th, she gets bonded out. August 30th, the bond gets rescinded. So 10 days later, they're like, nope, you're going back to jail. So the reversal comes a day after Casey's arrest for allegedly stealing and cashing checks from a friend, with the angry crowds demonstrating outside the Anthony's home, contributing to the decision. I gave it my best shot, says Padilla. She didn't want to talk to me. What can I say? Anthony will again be released after other parties combine to post bond on September 5th, although she will return to jail by the end of the month. That's going to be the parents again.
Oh my gosh.
And now their excuse for all of this is that they are trying to find where the baby is.
Yeah, where are they getting this money from? What collateral do they have if they're up to their eyeballs in debt and foreclosures? And
well, I think people,
how come normal people, like I'm self-employed, it's hard to get a freaking mortgage being self-employed, and these people are somehow able to bond out a child murderer?
Well, one thing we haven't mentioned here that probably is a good time to bring this up. What's going to come out into the trial is that George is going to meet a female during the search at the command center for the child. And this woman's name is going to be River Cruz in his phone. It's not her real name.
Oh, is that River Cruz on the screen?
Let's see here. Let me go back to the screen. Yes, this is Miss Cruz. And River Cruz ends up inviting him back to her apartment where there's a guard shack. He goes to the apartment and he and her have an affair, according to her.
What's her role in all this?
She met him. She was a grieving woman who was in a bad relationship at the time.
Why is she at the command center?
Because she was one of the volunteers to help find.
Oh my gosh.
Kaylee. They're going to bring George on the stand for this, and he's going to say that he knows her as River Cruz and that he has never had a relationship with her and that he doesn't even consider her to be a friend. Now they're going to bring into evidence a long series of text messages, one that includes, I need to see you. I haven't seen you in so long. I miss you. That was one of the only texts that actually came out in court before the judges or before the attorneys like called in like hearsay or some bullshit. And they had
perjury.
They had to stop reading text messages. But essentially she had a large amount of text messages from this guy to the point where he was supposed to show up, and it was the morning of the 4-year anniversary where she was supposed to be 4 years old. Kaylee was supposed to be 4 years old. He didn't show up to her house in the morning like he said. And so she said, I can't take this emotional abuse. You know, like, you were supposed to be here this morning. You didn't show up. You have to at least tell me. He says something nasty to her. Her friend texts him back and says, like, basically he can just fuck right off. And that's the end of that relationship. So he's been in this relationship while his granddaughter is missing.
Yes.
He's now sleeping, and it's apparent when you watch the when you watch the trial that there is no doubt that this guy, the gate guard, he testifies that he came in a lot. So when he gets up and testifies under oath, he says he never went there at night. The gate guard is like, no, he came at night, like several times. You know, I sent 1 or 2 text messages. They have a horde of text messages. They have months of text messages from this guy. So,
jeez, okay.
He's lying under oath on the stand about this whole affair. Now, could you imagine your granddaughter missing and now you're having a fucking affair on your wife with one of the people that are supposed to be looking for and on dates that he checked in were dates that he was marked as looking on the crime scene for the child. So they ask him that in court. Well, hey, you're on this manifest that you're actively looking because, you know, as a good crime scene reporter would do, is mark who's coming in and out of a crime scene. So he marks it down, and this motherfucker's not there. He's checked into this gate guard shack at an apartment, which he'll argue in court that it's not an apartment, it's a condominium. And the lawyer's like, really? That's
what you're gonna go
here?
That's the hill you want to die on here.
Yeah,
In light of everything else, in light of the constant perjury. Wow.
So now
So
Cindy's gonna say that this woman is crazy, and there's a lot of crazy people that want to attach themselves to the case.
sounds
But
like
when you
this
see
whole
the
family
evidence,
needs to be sent to South Carolina for a firing squad.
yes.
Wow.
So then they October 24th. Okay, so October 28th, they get an indictment with charges for aggravated child abuse, manslaughter, and 4 counts of providing false information to law enforcement.
And they haven't found the remains yet.
So now she's in jail. And let's just get her attitude. Do we have that queued up? Can we play that? Her attitude in jail, calling her mom.
Casey. An inmate from the Orange County Correction Center. For a rate quote, press 7. To accept this free call, press 0. To obtain a customer this call is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Casey?
Mom.
Hey, sweetie.
Well, I just saw your nice little cameo on TV.
Which one?
What do you mean, which one?
Which one? I did 4 different ones, and I don't know. I haven't seen them all. I've only seen 1 or 2 so far.
You don't know what my involvement is and stuff?
Casey?
Mom.
What?
No.
I don't know what your involvement is, sweetheart. You're not telling me where she's at.
Because I don't f***ing know where she's at. Are you kidding me?
Casey, don't waste your call to scream and holler at me.
Waste my call sitting in, the jail?
Whose fault
where
is
bunks are?
Whose fault is you're sitting in the jail? You're blaming me that you're sitting in the jail?
Not
Blame
my
yourself
fault.
for telling lies. You mean it's not your fault? What do you mean it's not your fault, sweetheart? If you'd have told them the truth and not lied about everything, they wouldn't.
Do me a favor, just tell me what Tony's number is. I don't want to talk to you right now. Forget it.
I don't have his number.
We'll get it from Lee because I know Lee's at the house. I saw Mallory's car was out front.
Let my kid talk to me that way. In jail.
First of all, why is someone in jail watching TV? This should be eliminated. If you're in jail, there should be why are we paying for cable television to exist for inmates? I found a whole new group of people that need to be executed.
It's pretty bad, right? It's pretty bad. So
what the heck, dude?
So,
Okay.
All right, October 24th now. So we've gone from June to October. The car report is released, the examination of the car, and that they found a strand of hair discovered in the trunk that is, quote, microscopically similar to those found on Kaylee's brush and showed characteristics of apparent decomposition. Now I looked into this, and what they found was a hair. It definitely was fucking Kaylee Anthony's. They just, they can't say that in court. They have to say things like microscopically similar, which retards a jury, which we'll talk about the jury here in a minute. But it was Kaylee Anthony's fucking hair. And the way it's appeared from decomposition was that it was the root and everything had come out, and the root was intact in such a way that is only apparent to when decomposition happens, and it just naturally, the scalp loosens up and the hair falls out. So it's not like a pluck or like a brush pulling a hair out. It's more of there was a decomposing body and hair
falling out from a decomposing body. Gotcha.
Right.
I understand.
They did an air sample from the trunk, which the defense is going to say that's impossible to do. But they do an air sample, which I've seen air samples done a lot, not for a dead body case, but for to see what kind of gas is in the air. To see what
I've never heard of an air sample for a dead body. That's interesting.
I haven't either, but I've had one done at the distillery to get an air sample for mold and what kind of mold is in the building, stuff like that. So I know air samples exist. When I was watching the trial, I didn't really quite understand why the lawyers were able to have this kind of evidence thrown out because of saying it's they didn't have it thrown out, but they told the jury flat out that this is magic science. This is fantastical science. It's not real science. And the jury's okay. Oh, he's this is just shit that they wish they could do, but it's not really proven. So, but regardless, there's an air sample done of the trunk, and it is found to contain chemical compounds consistent with human decomposition, and chloroform.
Oh, chloroform's in the air, huh?
Chloroform is in the air. Now, the mom.
How long does it stick around, though? You know what I'm saying?
The mom says that they have a pool and that they use chloroform for like chlorine, chlorophyll. Like she starts making up all these words that have nothing to do with chloroform, I guess.
The mom is saying this?
Cindy is saying this. This is what she's saying to the investigators, that they put
Dude.
stuff like that in the trunk all the time. So
We put stuff like chloroform in the
and
trunk all
she
the time.
bought it for some kind of project that had to do with the pool. Very weird.
I feel
December
like
11th.
the chemical composition of chlorine and chloroform would be different.
Okay, so then they're also going to find that on the computer, and this is another way that the trial was retarded. Was
How many
because
hashtags are we at now? How many ticks are we at?
I think he gave up. He's sitting on the couch with his feet up. I don't think he cares. He's like,
That's a Casey Anthony lie count.
He says I can't keep up. He's at 29. I think
29.
Next it'll be 69. So anyway, so gosh, it threw me off with these lies. So it's gonna come out that on a computer they find a search, multiple searches for chloroform, how to make chloroform, how
on whose
to
computer?
Inject chloroform on the family computer. Remember, this is 2008. So it's
oh my gosh.
Not everybody has their own computer.
All right. So it's not like individual computers that we know
the
of.
family
So it
computer
could have been any of the three of them.
Now, the investigators and detectives, being great detectives, they actually took the time of the searches and matched them with the times of Cindy and George clocking into work, and they were both at work during these times.
So that leaves Casey
in the house. Yeah, at least Casey. How to dispose of a body was on one of the things, but there was many searches on chloroform. How to kill somebody was on there. Lots of different things. Now, when they testified in court, the defense trips them up by saying, which search engine was it? And they said Google or whatever the search engine was. I can't remember at the time. And then they said, okay, were there one or more searches for chloroform on this search engine? And they were like, now remember, you're talking about the Google search engine. And they were like, yes, but, and they're like, no, answer the question, yes or no. And they have to answer yes, there was only one, because they didn't testify that there were more than one search engine that they checked. The defense caught them up in just one. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So so if you're a defense lawyer and you're looking at you and I say, Mike, you searched this on Google, did you not? Yes, I did. And you're telling me that there was more than one search for chloroform on this search engine. And you're in your brain, you're like, yeah, there was definitely more than one search on this computer. You're not thinking in 2008 specifically to a search engine. And then they call you a liar, and then they say, no, there was only one on Google. And that's when you're like, oh, well, I mean, it was on Firefox, and it was too late. They didn't get to play that game. So now the jury is only going to see this one-sided one search on one search engine, even though there were multiple searches across multiple.
Isn't one enough?
Well, now Cindy, here's what's crazy.
Isn't piecing this together, isn't one enough?
Cindy is going to testify that she was looking it up for, again, pool purposes.
Chloroform.
Even though they tell her that she was at work and she was clocked in.
Can you Google search,
Cindy doesn't come
chloroform go in pools?
No.
I don't know if it does or doesn't.
No, what she says on the trial when they bring that up to her is she says that when you type in chlorine, chloroform pre-filled itself in and she hit enter. Like I told you, they have an excuse.
I gotcha.
For
autocomplete. Yeah.
They have an excuse for everything.
It says on here, public swimming pools contain high levels of chloroform, but it's a chemical that's formed in water after
chlorine's added.
Yeah. So you don't
put it in there.
You don't put it in there. It's created by chlorine.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, I would look like a psychopath too, Mr. Zentz, if you looked at my search history, because I searched some really fucked up things for this podcast. But anyway,
when I got the suicide hotline.
Naked midgets covered in peanut butter is weird, yes, but murderous? I don't know. Not really.
How does that have to do with serial killers, Eric? Well, I was trying to look up cereal and it pre-filled peanut butter, and then I was trying to put killer and it pre-filled midget, so I got peanut butter midget. And my mom's like, that can happen.
I guarantee.
I know those technologies. That happens all the time. So Cindy lies on the stand. Now we've got fucking Cindy telling lies because they're like, Cindy, honey, you fucking clocked into work. What are you talking about? And she was like, no, I actually came home and Googled this at home. And they're like, no, you didn't. So, but regardless, the jury.
I took a break. I forgot to log out. I needed to get to the internet real quick. I thought about it while I was working that I really wanted to know about chloroform in pools. So I didn't tell my boss and I left and went home and searched.
So then on December 11th, we're now June to December, the skeletal remains of the young girl are discovered. I have talked to an investigator that was part of this case, sent a message, and they said it's easy, a 2-minute walk from the house to this location. Go ahead and pop that picture up of where the body was found. There it is right there. So there's the body found in this little neighborhood. As you're looking at the picture to the left is kind of just, if you kind of go down the corners where they lived. So it was, I'm sorry, it was a 5-minute walk, a 2-minute drive is what this was explained of. Now the body is going to be about 17 feet, 9 inches off of the road. The defense is going to say, how in the fuck, with all those 100 people, with the Florida boys, with all the swamp guys, with all the horses, how was this body not found? Now, here is a really weird part of this case. There is a man, a meter maid, a meter reader, as they call him. And the meter reader, whose name is Roy Kronk, he's going to find the body months before this, and he's going to report it to deputies. The deputy guy shows up. He says, hey, look, I was doing my meter maid shit near the school zone, and I went in the woods to take a leak, and I see a bag that has a skull in it. I haven't touched it. Now, go ahead and pop the picture up on what the woods look like. Can you get, is there a better one of the from the road version of that? You can kind of see from that picture how dense those woods are. I think
it didn't upload. I think I'll get it real quick.
Okay. So anyway, as you're looking into the woods, it is very thick, swampy, Florida. I'm talking like visibility of like 5 feet in these woods. I mean, it is in a draw that fills up with water. So he steps back in there. So, 17 feet off of the road is, you could pee back there all day long. And he's going to find this bag. He calls it in. So deputy gets
When is
there.
this?
I want to say this is going to be like in like October-ish time frame.
Okay.
Maybe it was in August, actually. I don't have the time stamp for that. But he's gonna find it 3 times. He's gonna call this in 3 times.
He's called it in
3 times. So the first time he calls it in
to the sheriff's office.
To the sheriff's office, a sheriff guy shows up, and according to Roy, the deputy slips, and according to the deputy, he testifies that he slips in the grass and falls down, soiling his uniform. So getting his uniform muddy.
Okay.
And it's Florida, so it's swampy and wet.
Yeah.
December 11th is when they reported that bag was found.
That's the 3rd time.
Okay.
But the first time was, I want to say it was in like August. And so that guy is pissed off from the start, and he asks him questions about it. He says he walks back there, doesn't see anything, and leaves the scene. Doesn't see a bag. Now, in his defense, there was a really big storm, and that area is always covered in water. So it could have been that he just didn't see it because it was in the water. But my argument is, well, if homeboy saw why he was taking a piss, then how does deputy not see it? And the deputy said that they were actually exhausted because of how many tips and clues that they were having to respond to on a daily basis regarding this, and that they weren't able to answer other calls because they were constantly getting misleading calls for this particular investigation.
So it's not super common. Not as common as it is now. So like in 2000, well, I don't know. I don't know, man. Most people probably had cell phones in 2008, right?
Yeah, I had a flip phone. I got my
iPhones were already out.
I got my first cell phone in 2006.
Okay, so does the meter maid? I feel like if I found a small skull in the woods,
and right near the Casey Anthony's home, and you already know about the missing girl,
I would call, and then I would wait there for a deputy. And
he did.
What?
He did. He sat there and waited, and the deputy showed up, slipped in the mud, Went back there, says he doesn't see anything.
Why don't I just walk him back there and be like, no, it's right here?
I mean, I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question.
That's annoying. That's annoying.
So then he's going to call it back.
That whole thing is jacked right there. That pisses me off. That whole thing pisses me off.
Yes, it does. It does. Or maybe the deputy says that I saw the bag and it's, we don't know what the deputy told him. Oh yeah, it's nothing, just a bag of trash. Oh, okay. Well, then he's going to call it in again. He's going to be like, I'm pretty sure I saw a fucking skull. They go back out. They don't see anything. And then he's going to call back in December. And he's like, look, motherfuckers, I can see the fucking skull. Like, it is a skull. And then they get there. Are you putting the pictures up?
Yeah.
There they are. So that you can see the pictures are very weird, right? It's like a decomposed bag of shit, like of mush. It would be hard to tell what that is. You see that bag?
But
I mean, look at that. Look at that picture. I mean, that is some thick ass. We're talking like ivy webbed. It does just look like a bag of trash covered in swamp shit. And it's wet, moist. Yeah, look how wet that is. I mean, look how. And so I guess the second officer is going to say that he went back there and saw a snake and didn't see anything else. And so he was like, yeah, there's a snake back there. I'm not going in there. And I get this because you go fucking around in swamps.
What's going on around here?
If you fuck around in a swamp like that, I mean, there could easily be a gator in there. There could easily be a water moccasin in there. I mean, it's Florida, dude. Everything wants to kill you there. It's like Australia. So anyway, December, they find the
everybody appears to have wanted to kill Kaylee as well.
Do you see how salacious all this is? Like, just how freaking, like, imagine being in 2008 and just seeing like bombshell after bombshell after bombshell, like all this crazy stuff just coming out of this case. That's why the whole world was watching this case.
Crazy.
So December 11th, they find the remains. It's a half mile from the Anthony, less than a half mile. Kronk had sought to convince police in the search in the area back in the summer. Yeah, so
August 2008. Yeah, that's what you said. You sent this in the chat, right? Kronk states that he was berated by an officer for half an hour for wasting his time. Yeah, apparently wasted your time showing you the crime scene, you dumbass.
Think about how much like DNA evidence and shit probably was still on the body back in June. I mean, back
what's in
August.
the bag? Oh my gosh, yeah.
So the medical examiner reports that the bones show no evidence of trauma, and Kaylee's death is being ruled, but her death was still being ruled a homicide of undetermined means. Although the skull is found with duct tape around the nose, mouth, and jaw, the advanced state of decomposition ultimately prevents investigators from pinpointing an exact cause of death. Now, the defense is going to say in the trial that the duct tape was never on the body. And what they're going to tell the jury, and let's talk about the jury for a minute. So what the defense, and I heard this in a documentary, was that their thing was, to their defense, their strategy was, there's too many people that know the case. So what we're going to do is select jurors from out of Orlando. They convince the judge to go along with this. They say that the Orlando people are just too, attached to this case. We need to get somebody further from Orlando to make it fair. The judge is like, sure. And as they're doing their jury selection, they're picking any juror that's doesn't familiar with the case, that doesn't have cable TV. Like, they ask all the questions about how much you know about this case, and they're only picking their jurors based on. So basically, they're picking the dumbest jurors that they possibly can. That's their strategy, and they say this after the trial's over in a documentary. They're like, "Yeah, we were just trying to literally find the most uneducated about this case, but you might as well just say we're trying to find the dumbest fucking Florida rednecks." To be honest, jury
doesn't sound like even like just pick somebody from freaking Scotland. Doesn't matter, and present what we've just presented today. And
but the thing is they're not
flags up that it's like
they're not getting it presented that way. They're getting it presented with yes or no questions. So if you're a jury and you're sitting there, and then you ask the guy how many times did they search chloroform on that search engine, yes or no, was it one? And they say yes. The jury only sees that there was one.
Yeah, but
they don't get to know the hindsight.
Sounds like the prosecutors weren't very good in this case either, because you'd be able to overcome that. You'd be able to overcome that by saying, you go back on the cross-examination and be like, in your testimony, you said it was one in Google, but were there more than just that? Like seems like the follow-ups would be able to overcome the stupidity of the defense.
And I don't know how in court works. Like maybe it's like the state gets to go first, and then the defense gets to go, and then there might not be a rebuttal.
You can cross-examine.
Okay. I'm not sure. I mean, I watched as much of this as I could, in exhaustive length. They go to talk to the judge so much. It's like, which is off air, so who knows what they're saying. But but either way, the jury is just at every moment they have an excuse. They have this whole excuse about the chloroform in the back of the car. They talk about the hair, how that there's no way to microscopically tell. He, beats down that microscopically, doesn't make any sense, and just, retards the jury, you know, several times. But what I think is interesting is they start the case off. And by the way, the prosecution thinks they've got a slam dunk case. They're like, dude, this is fucking awesome. Like, this bitch is gonna get the electric chair. But the defense comes out right away and bombshells everybody by saying that George and Lee, her brother, sexually abused her as a child. And what you're going to see is abuse for a long time, and that you're going to see that George allowed Kaylee to fall into the pool and accidentally drowned, and then tried to cover it up and has the whole family covered up because he's the bully of the family. Now, he never ever revisits the sex abuse, which I think is super unfair, because now you have painted a picture about a man and everybody's like, wait the whole trial, 8 weeks or whatever, for him to bring out evidence of this claim right at the beginning, which, by the way, opening statements aren't presented as evidence. It's just opening statements. But if you get the first opening statement,
literally trying to persuade, you can,
right, you
there's
say
a
whatever you
lot
want.
of leeway in opening and closing statements.
So if you start out with the brother and the father were abusive and sexually abusive, and then in no way, shape, or form in the next 8 weeks ever follow up with evidence, I don't think that's fair, because now you've already planted a seed in the jury's brain that this guy's a sex fucking pedophile, that he would molest his own daughter, but never ever bring it back up. And it's only the prosecution that brings it up and clears his name. Like, have you ever sexually abused your daughter? He's like, absolutely not. But now he also lied on stand under oath about not having an affair. So do you believe that guy or not believe that guy? And I think that's just why lying to me is such a big deal. It's like, because once one person lies about something, there's no telling how far they're willing to go.
I have got to go back and watch the closing arguments on this. I hope they're online somewhere. I want to hear the closing arguments.
So, they've painted this picture of George, unfortunately, but again, I don't have any sympathy for George, because George is cheating on his fucking wife while this girl is missing. Oh, by the way, let's take a quick rewind. Let's go back. After she finds, during that summer when she bonded out, she goes to a no clothes party. And a no clothes party is not as exciting as you think. A no clothes party means you can wear anything but clothes. So people wear flags or boxes or wrappers to something, or pillowcases. But here are some pictures of her wrapped in a flag for her no clothes party. And this was in that summer as well. Do you have those? Yeah, there she is. Let's fucking party. My daughter's missing. I got a picture of Leinenkugels, and I'm wearing an American flag. Then, right?
That's probably a contrary to flag code.
Yeah. So then
People
George
get mad
now
about the thin blue line flag.
Yeah,
really
people
pissed
get mad about the
that.
thin blue line flag. You should really be mad about a murderer wearing an American flag to a party.
So now you have this body that's found with duct tape around the mouth and jaw as it's presented.
Someone
by
mentioned in the chat
prosecution
that it was on the bone, like it had not been on
Sure.
the skin. It was on the
So
bone.
what the
and they had
defense-
taped under the
Yes.
jaw. What do you think that was all about?
So the defense is going to say in this case that it was in the laundry bag, which was known. It was a laundry bag that's sold, I think they said at Target, that it's sold in a pair, and they found the original laundry bag at the Casey house. So there's no dispute that it's not their laundry bag, and that the tape at the time would have been around the top of the laundry bag and the plastic bag, and that over time, as everything deteriorated, it kind of slipped over the thing, and it just had her hair caught up in it. But what the defense is going to say, and what the autopsy discovered, was that a body that's been dead that long and has decomposed that much, the jaw is the first thing to fall off of the skull, because it's on a hinge, so it separates very quickly. And in this case, it had not been, and that's where the tape was. So they believe that the tape is what was holding the jaw together. Now put a picture of the bones up there so you can see Kaylee Anthony's bones. So there's the bones, which is very sad. I think it's important to look at, just because, what a fucking tragedy. This chick's not even fucking 3 years old. So again, everything that is presented, the defense has like this crazy excuse about it to say that like they're lying. And this whole thing is the whole defense is that this was a drowning that was on George's watch and that he was supposed to be watching Kaylee and she drowned and he panicked and they wanted to hide the body and it spiraled out from there. Now, what kind of
How does that tie into Casey saying, "Oh,
so check this out.
she's with this babysitter or she's at Disney"?
So check this out. When he's having the affair, she gets up and testifies that in a saddened state, sitting on the couch before they had sex, he cried and she asked about the Casey Anthony thing. And he said it was a terrible accident that has snowballed out of control. That's what she testifies on the stand. That's what he told her before they had coitus.
Okay, so pre-coitus in his emotional state,
right?
This lady who has nothing to gain by sharing this,
right,
says that this was an accident that spiraled out of control.
He told her this is an accident that spiraled out of control, that snowballed out of control.
Okay.
So she testifies to that, which is another bombshell because they're like, okay, so now you've got a dude that's fucking a chick who's also in a relationship. They're having this covert relationship where they met in the command center of a bus, according to her and him. And they've been having this secret affair while trying to find this missing granddaughter. And then he tells her in a crying state that this was a terrible accident that just snowballed out of control. Again,
so
many
I
lies.
can see if that's coming out in court, why a jury, like if the standard of evidence, which it is beyond a reasonable doubt to convict someone.
Yep.
Now that is a ton of doubt.
That's a ton of doubt,
right? Like I'm sitting here listening to this. I never knew this, right? Like I said, I was only vaguely familiar with the basics of the case. And now I'm hearing a lot of this for the very first time as you're telling it, and I'm sitting there putting myself in the jury box, as an uninformed, cableless old person from Topeka being brought in for the trial, right? Like, and I'm going, whoa, maybe Casey didn't do it. If she was abused, this George guy is lying about all this other stuff. Maybe there's enough doubt here that maybe he did it.
I mean,
Maybe
everybody's lying. I mean, everybody is lying from like their whole life is just a web of lies. You know, who knows what to fucking believe in this case and who's not. But on January 23rd, George is going to be taken into custody after he attempts suicide in Daytona Beach he was reported as despondent and possibly under the influence of medication and alcohol. So basically he tried to OD in Daytona, Florida, which he provided a 5-long suicide note that nobody gets to see.
Nobody's ever seen the suicide note?
No.
What the heck, man?
It wasn't put into evidence or anything.
What the? Oh my gosh.
All right. So April 13th, prosecutors announced
tried.
Yeah.
Tried. I mean,
allegedly.
like,
you got a picture
as
of
much
George.
as anybody that drinks too much and takes Xanax tries to kill themselves.
Throw George up there. George and Cindy. Get a little picture of George and Cindy for our audience there. There they are. There's these fucking, you know, and watching him on the stand was just, I mean, you could tell he's lying. I mean, when he's talking about, and the fact that they catch him in his lie, and the wife still defends him. Like the wife is still like, no, she was crazy and she just wanted her 10 minutes of fame. But if you watch her testify, that's not a crazy person. That's like, and then she, you know, she's wants
got nothing to gain.
Nothing. She's lost everything. Actually, she's fucking.
The only thing she's losing is her reputation anyway. You know, whatever she has.
And that's why she says, they ask her, they're like, why didn't you come forth? And she's like, because I'm embarrassed. She's like, I'm sleeping with a man who should be grieving. And was in a bad relationship, but I was still in a relationship at the time. Like, it's not something you want to, I mean, it was only going to hurt him and me if anybody found out that we were sleeping together. And it's like, holy fuck. She now sees that her lies
is it too soon for me to ask you what you think really happened, or do you want to wait?
We'll wait.
Okay. that's huge for me. That's been the biggest like whoa moment so far of you telling this. I'm like, wait a second, he did
It kind of
what?
throws a wrench in everything. Also, I'd like to read that there was a poem that was on. This was on July 7th, so we're going backwards just a little bit, but
During
this
the initial missing child period, right?
Casey Anthony puts on her MySpace page. This is a poem that she wrote. Quote: "What is given can be taken away. Everyone lies. Everyone dies. Life will never be easy." Anthony posted the message while she was apparently watching American Psycho, according to her.
I just wrote that movie down as something to watch soon.
It's a great movie. What is given can be taken away. Everyone lies. Everyone dies. Life will never be easy. I don't know. So, okay. So, April 13th, the prosecutors announced their intention to pursue the death penalty. They think that they have sufficient aggravating circumstances. May 24th, the trial commences with the defense bombshell claim. The trial begins with the prosecutors opening salvo of
all
Casey.
this stuff is circumstantial, right? I mean, like they don't have any hard evidence.
Yep.
Connecting Casey to it.
Right.
Just a series of her hash mark lies.
The
40 and counting.
Right. So the trial begins with the defense, of course, saying that she is just this party animal. Here's all of this crazy evidence. Here's the hot body contest that she did while her daughter's missing. Here's a picture of her partying at a clothesless party. Here's the fucking poem on her MySpace. Her best friend testified, which is not her best friend anymore, testified that she was kind of disgusted that Casey Anthony never ever changed. She never changed her behavior, never from day one. There was no change in her at all when her daughter was missing, period. She acted the same as always. Bumming rides off people, wanting to go places, trying to set up, meeting boys, getting super wasted, throwing up in things, just being a party girl, happy, no change. They didn't see any emotional change in her at all. And that's when she knew something was really up with Casey. So, wow. Then, of course, the Baez, the prosecution had come out with that she's a party girl. The defense says that Kaylee drowned in the family swimming pool and it was George's fault, and that George and her brother had sexually molested her, whatever. Simon Birch, the manager of the towing company that impounded Casey's car, this was in May during the trial, he testified that he had encountered multiple vehicles with dead bodies in them during his 3 decades in business. And the smell from the Casey Anthony's car was consistent with those past experiences. And when he gave the keys to George, he said, "It smells like there might be a body in your trunk." Now, they are going to say that the defense is going to say that there was a bag of trash that unknown employees had removed from the car, and that they found a trash bag on the other side of the fence of the car lot, and that they think that trash bag was in the trunk, that one of these guys must have opened the trunk, taken the trash bag out, and thrown it, and that's what caused the rancid smell. And they just wanted the smell out of the yard. But they had no witness information that said that. But they said nobody wanted to come forward. So that's how they kind of retard the jury there.
Okay.
And they kind of convinced them that there was this bag of, pizza or some bullshit. But we know, bro. Come on. We know what a dead
I've
body
smelled
smells
bad pizza and I've smelled bad dead bodies.
I've smelled
They're not the same.
What does a
There's
dead
nothing
body smell like?
It's a very acetone, I think, a very gaseous. It's kind of like a combination of rotten chicken, sour milk. Because my wife's asked me this before.
It's
and I think that
noxious.
It is, and it's
pungent.
It sticks.
You think it's from
sticky.
the bloat?
No, it's just
how long does
sticky.
it take for that smell, you think?
Oh, it depends on the weather.
Yeah, it depends on the weather.
I mean, I've smelled some really bad. I mean, I had a dead woman that died in her apartment with the shower running, and she was in there for 28 days, and the shower was just cycling from hot to cold, and all of her skin had melted off of the body, and she was just one big giant pile of goo, and I could smell her from the parking lot. And the fact that anybody else in the apartment waited 28 days to complain about that, I was like, what's fucking wrong with you people? It's fucking gross.
Wow.
So you know what a dead body smells like. George says that it smelled like a dead body. Cindy says it smells like a dead body. but the defense is gonna say that it was just a bag of trash that had laid
Texas
in the
Wolf
hot
says,
summer.
"Get stuck in your clothes." It does.
It does.
You
It
smell
absolutely
like
does.
your uniform will smell like
Yeah.
death.
It's
Like
so hard to get that out.
When the phrase "smells like death," it's real, right? So like, there's this sense of like, I definitely was on dead bodies where I had to change my uniform.
Oh,
Because
yes.
it's stuck with you.
Yes.
So
Yep.
whatever it is,
I'm glad I've never smelled a dead body, I guess.
It's
I
you know,
smell
and it's
dead
totally
animals.
different. It's not anywhere close to a dead animal. It doesn't smell anything like a dead animal. I mean, it really like
Is it
you know,
worse?
yeah.
Yeah.
Way
Dude, I
worse.
can't
And
imagine that.
and if I could break it down like as a sommelier, I would say that if you took a whole bunch of chicken breast,
comparing
and
it to wine,
you took some cat urine, and you took some rotten leaves from like a mulch pit, and you put all of those things together, you know, you'd have and intensify times 10. That's a dead
it was
body.
weird. There was sometimes. This is kind of a tangent. I don't want to take us on too far of a tangent, but I mean, there's some dead bodies that was weird. Like, why doesn't it smell bad? Like, they've been dead a couple of days, but you're like, that's weird. It doesn't have the normal smell. You ever have that where it was like, yeah, this doesn't smell normal, like a normal dead body?
So a forensic scientist is going to be brought in, and he's going to testify that when a body decomposes, it gives off a shockingly high amount of chloroform. And that could be why they found chloroform in the trunk. And an FBI scientist comes on the next day to thwart that, saying that the level of chloroform in the trunk was about the same amount that you would find in any household cleaner. It was consistent with household cleaners. So now the jury's like, okay, so now we don't have chloroform in the trunk. We still have this hair, but now we've had this whole thing about how like microscopic hair doesn't exist, and that was Casey Anthony's car, and Kaylee's hair could be all over that fucking car because of a brush being in there and all these things. And that, you know, just because somebody
all reasonable doubt, sure.
All reasonable doubt. So on June 23rd, Cindy gets up and claims that she was the one who researched chloroform on her computer. That was the big bombshell there. She testified that
They're
the
all
stain
covering for each other.
Yep. She also
This is
testifies that
obvious.
a stain found in the trunk allegedly caused Kaylee's decomposing body was there when the family actually bought the car 8 years earlier. So the closing arguments, Casey was overly burdened by Kaylee. Lead prosecutor Jeff Ashton emphasized to the jury how the young mother was motivated enough to go to extremes and achieve her freedom. Something needed to be sacrificed. That something was either the life that she wanted or the life thrust upon her, which that life would have been her child. While forbidden from revisiting the unsupported molestation claims, Baez nevertheless delivered an effective closing argument by pointing out the lack of evidence that could definitively place Kaylee's body in the car trunk or tie Casey to her daughter's death at all. After almost 6 weeks of testimony and 400 pieces of evidence presented in court, the jury of 7 women and 5 men takes less than 11 hours to reach their verdict of not guilty. Casey is sentenced to time already served. She received a 4-year sentence and a $4,000 fine, which they waived for the 4 counts of lying to the police.
What was she sentenced to? For what?
Lying to the police.
Okay.
And negligence for not knowing where your kid was at for a month.
Interesting.
July 17th, day before my birthday, Casey was released from jail shortly after midnight, passing approximately 100 protesters who showed up to demand justice for Kaylee. It is my hope that Casey Anthony can receive the counseling and treatment she needs to move forward with the rest of her life, her lawyer says in statements. So, you know, she's now working with one of the investigators from that trial. She was dating a cop for a little while as well, which what fucking cop dates that bitch? But she...
do we know who it is? Do we know this cop's names?
Because she came up in the news because
I want to see if they follow me on Instagram so I can block them. I want to know who it is. I don't know who it is.
Go ahead, look them up. Just to Casey Anthony dating a cop. And here's man, I had a nice quote here. I'm going to read it for you. And this is what one of the jurors said. Let's see if I can find it here. Oh, I also forgot this. In July,
Malcolm Allison.
Okay.
What's
Do you
his Instagram?
remember?
Text it to me.
Do you remember the party that we talked about in July?
Yes.
On July 5th, I believe it was. I forgot this. She had gotten a Bella Vita tattoo, which means beautiful life. So she has no money. Her daughter's missing. She goes and get a Bella Vita tattoo
I mean,
on her
she's
back.
got to have guys just like eating out of the palm of her hand, apparently, with you leveraging her body
Yeah.
somehow. This nuts.
Uh,
So I understand. I actually understand why a jury would have found her not guilty, because there's so much. You have a holy trinity of liars. The mom, the dad, and the daughter all seem to be covering for each other. That's my take on
right.
this.
And
From
now
what
the
you
family
like,
does not talk to each other anymore. However, the mom came back out in 2018 and says that she is actually on a limited basis still talking to Casey. But the dad says he'll never talk to her again.
yeah, but all right. So, what do
Okay,
you?
so I want to read let me see here. All right, so there was an
You all right over there?
article, there was an interview with one of the jurors years later in People magazine, and this was in 2018, July 2018, and they asked him about it, and so he told people that the attorney's behavior in the courtroom had an impact in the jury room. He described the lead prosecutor, Jeff Ashton, as being ambitious but arrogant. And that kind of shows you how important it is for lawyers to build a relationship with the jury. And so the prosecutor, they see him as ambitious and arrogant. So that puts them on the side of the defense. You know what I mean? So he said one of the prosecutors was the other prosecutor was mechanical and cold. He said that Jose Baez, which was her defense lawyer, was the only one in the room who seemed like he actually cared about the jury. And we talked about that when we were going through the jury deliberation. So he said, we took the first vote on first degree murder, said the juror. We were 10-2 to acquit. So we talked for about 30 minutes, and the two decided that they were willing to change their vote. So first degree was off the table pretty quickly. Next up was aggravated manslaughter. We did our first vote, and it came out half to acquit, half to convict, said the juror. We talked about it for a while, going through the evidence. I'd say that some people got intense, but there were no personal attacks, no real yelling. And we talked for a while. Then it was 11-1 to acquit. And the guy who didn't want to acquit basically looked at us and said, okay, whatever you all want. He knew he wasn't going to convince us. And then we sat there for a few minutes and we're like, holy crap, we are letting her go free. He continued. Everyone was just stunned at what we were about to do. One of the women jurors asked me, are you okay with this? And I said, hell no. But what else can we do? We promised to follow the law. Despite the decision to acquit Anthony, the jurors later said that their decision haunted them. We were sick to our stomach to get that verdict. Juror number 3, Jennifer Ford, told ABC News. We were crying, and not just the women. It's an emotional event for everyone. Another female juror told People in 2012 that she was plagued with questions after the trial. I did what I could do based on the evidence that we got to hear, she said. But the people watching at home could see the sidebars and the commentary, and they knew much more about the case than we did. I hated being on that jury. I wish I hadn't been. Another juror goes on to talk about how he lives with this every day. He knew what the right thing to do was, but he did the wrong thing anyway, and he didn't trust his gut, and he has to live with that every single day. And he's been tore up, and there's not one day that goes by in his life that he doesn't think about this trial.
So she's currently dating a cop, and she's
I don't think she's currently. She was like a year ago.
But she also had a relationship with one of the investigators in the case?
She did, and now she's working for one of the investigators in the case. And not the defense investigators, not like police investigators.
Okay.
Like lawyers. So now she works for them. She works for the law firm, and she does photography for them, and she does research because she knows what it's like to be wrongfully accused of something and how bad social media can make you look. And so she works with clients at this law firm to help them situate their social media, basically telling them how to bullshit and lie. That's just what I think she does.
All right. So I can see why a jury would be confused, because there's so many lies that you
She's
can
kind of a genius.
recognize as a lie, but you don't know what the truth is. It's like the lie doesn't lead you to the truth; it leads you to another lie. It's a lot of strings to
Right.
pull on. I get that part, so I get like a jury could be pushed to say, "Hey, beyond any reasonable doubt, I don't know, like who knows what's going on here?" Especially the thing with the dad and his mistress. That is really a huge wrench in what I understand from at least our show today. Like I'm like, whoa, 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 that's a problem, right? So, I mean, in that case, you can start putting together dad molests Casey or brother molests Casey, who is out of her mind anyway and a psycho liar, has a baby. That's why mom knows this and is in denial that she's even pregnant. They have this kid. No one really cares for the kid. It's like this pariah. And then she leaves and leaves the kids with the parents, and the kid dies, and they have some secret phone calls. Dude, I don't know. What do you think happened? You've been familiar with this case from the beginning, so I have it.
And if you listen to this case enough, and everybody can have their own opinions on this case because it depends on what podcast you listen to, what documentary you watch, on the way that certain facts are told. Now, I'm trying to tell the facts as objectively as I can. But if you listen to these other ones, they really kind of give you the facts that they want you to hear. So you learn different facts from different podcasts, from different documentaries, from different news sources. I tried to put them all together for you today. I don't know how good I did that because, again, I'm not a journalist. I'm a fucking podcaster, C- student at best. But, I try to put all these facts together. Me looking at this case and looking at the facts as what they are and not being retarded by the defense, because I don't believe in a word that the defense said. I don't believe a word that lawyer says. I do believe that you can take an air sample. I do believe that you can microscopically look at a hair and tell if it's fallen out of the head or been plucked from the head.
Sure.
I really do believe that the duct tape didn't just miraculously fall over the head over the course of 6 or 7 months. I don't believe that it just magically fell on the jaw and held the jaw together. I don't believe that chloroform on one. I think I don't think Cindy came home from work, researched chloroform that had anything to do with her fucking pool while she was at work. I do believe that there was multiple search engines because there was. I do believe that George was having a fucking affair because I think he's just a bad person. I think that George probably started these lies. I think Cindy started these lies. I think it was appropriate in the household to tell lies. And I don't think anybody ever knew the truth because I bet you that this wasn't the first time that George cheated on his wife. I guarantee you. People don't just go from zero to hero like that. You don't just go to a command bus and pick up a chick there unless you've already done that once or twice and you're already kind of comfortable with doing it. You know what I'm saying? So I think maybe there has been a history in the household of infidelity. We just don't know about it. I don't think that, I think that your finances, it's easy to hide and lie about when finances are bad because you don't want to see that disappointment in your spouse that you've been mishandling funds or that you together have been mishandling funds. It's easier to lie about that and say, oh, well, so-and-so just didn't pay me or, beat around the bush somehow, which is why I stress to my business partners all the time that we're always just going to tell the truth because I'm not doing any of this shit lying to me is my one pet peeve. People do not, when it comes down to business, there are no lies. If you work for me, you don't lie, period. My wife doesn't lie to me. I don't lie to my wife, period. So, but Casey, I think that she grew up in a household full of lying constantly. I think there was constant deceit, the mother deceiving all the people around her, as you stated before, being that she wants to keep up with the Joneses. And I think that's a form of lying, right? Like presenting, a life that would be like if I went and took pictures next to a Ferrari, and be like, look how good my podcasting career is going. That to me is a lie. That's not how any of this works.
You might be able to take a photo next to a manual push scooter and say, look how good my podcast career is going. It's financially, like a little scooter.
One
of your kids' skateboards.
Maybe he could buy like a really, really heavily used Chevy Impala or something.
Skate Daddy Tansey only skates on the best though.
Yeah. So, I think she saw her mom kind of lying to all of their friends about kind of their social status in life. And I think it was
You don't think there's any merit to the idea of
no, I think Casey
George was watching her and she fell into the pool and that was it?
No, because if Casey went to go borrow a shovel, I think here's what
Do you
I
think
think
all
happened.
3 of them knew about it and decided to cover
Mm,
for everybody?
that could happen. This is
Cover for
honestly,
their daughter.
this is obvious. This is what I think. This is my own personal opinion on what I think happened. I
Uh-huh.
think that there was a trip planned day after Father's Day for Casey. I think she was going to go to Jacksonville or something. She was going to go to a party. She was having a hard time finding a babysitter. I think she did have a fight with the mom and the dad or something. I think that Casey was like, you know what? I'm going to give her a little dose of melatonin, but melatonin wasn't a thing back then. So that melatonin was a chloroform concoction to knock her out. I don't think she woke up. I think she told her parents that I gave Casey some medication and she never woke up and everybody fucking panicked.
Yeah.
That's what I think happened.
I feel like in my gut listening to this, and this is my opinion, in my gut, mom and dad know what happened.
They could know what happened. The only damper in my own theory I was thinking about last night is the car being left in the get cash now parking lot. Why would you go and leave the car in a Cash App parking lot only to be towed and have the registration plate there and everything?
Because it depends on the timing of when the parents found out. I think that there was a point at which the baton was passed to them to continue and perpetuate the lies.
But why do you put the car in the parking lot and just leave it there? I think Casey was just financially fucked and she left her car there.
Yeah, that's fine. But what I'm saying is, I mean, George gets the call later. I don't know that changes the fact that at some point George and Cindy find out and they decide, just like Cindy covered and threw a graduation party for someone that never graduated,
Right.
and says, oh, she can't be pregnant, even though she is pregnant, and just continues to try to always keep up appearances. I think that I think Cindy keeps up appearances no matter what. And I think George is a devious, demented human being. And Casey is the product of these two psychos. And when Psycho killed the granddaughter, whether intentional or unintentional, they decided to keep up appearances and still keep doing it. They love their daughter and they want to keep this all together, like they're trying to keep all the rest of their life together. And that's where they're at. I think that they probably convinced themselves that they're justified. They may have convinced themselves in their own mind that they're the victims. Who knows? It's weird.
Yeah. It's so sad because you have this innocent little girl and who knows what her life was like. The mom shows all the TV stars and the Dr. Phil's that the room is still the way it is, and it looks like a nice girl's room, but when your daughter's missing, I think Casey had to know, and if your theory is right, she did know that her daughter was dead. Going and partying like that, I don't know if she's the perfect girlfriend or just a psycho.
Yeah.
I mean, she's hot. She's hot. She likes to party and she doesn't want kids. Sounds like the perfect girlfriend to me.
Zen says, I actually feel like a piece of shit for making jokes about this, but I gave up on caring. You ever been to Detroit? You wouldn't care either. Wow. I've been to Detroit plenty of times. Man, what a crazy case. And so pay attention, guys. I guess
she's coming out with a tell-all where she just wants to get the truth off of her chest. That's why we came up with today's episode, because I said, not today, bitch. Not today. Because you haven't fucking told the truth once. Your truth means nothing. Her truth means absolutely nothing. When you've spun webs of lies like that, nothing you say can convince me that you are telling any truth at all.
Yeah.
Any at all. That bitch can't tell the truth if the fucking truth hit her in the fucking face. Even if she was on her deathbed and she said something, I'd take it on face value. I wouldn't believe it. Unless she could show me strict evidence.
Yeah, this is, I love the references. And I thought of the same exact thing, was like OJ's, I didn't do it, but if I did. Like Casey Anthony, like, yeah, I didn't kill her, but if I did,
right?
And who knows what it is? Her truth, their truth, your truth. There's only the truth, and hopefully we got at some of that today, dude. Thanks for doing the work and
Yeah, it was fine.
telling us some of this stuff. I mean, this is stuff that I didn't know because, like I said, I was vaguely familiar. And if I mean, I've been in law enforcement and social media and made Casey Anthony jokes and all that stuff, and I still learned 85% of what I heard today I had never heard. So
yeah, it's not easy trying to give all the facts. I see why these podcasts, and that's what's great about our show is that we don't have a time constraint. We don't have time limits. We're allowed to just talk about this shit as much as we want. But when you listen to some of these other podcasts, like they only have 1 hour, right? They have to get, because that's the way that their network
seems
says them.
This is the show.
You get 1 hour. And so they're trying to pinpoint the facts of the case that go with their narrative or their theory. And I really, when I did this case today, I just wanted to be like, you know what? I want to just go at this with no theory and just like try to get as much of this evidence
tell the story
that we know that tells the whole fucking story. Because, if you didn't know about the high school graduation thing, which the jury didn't know any of that,
right.
But we know as listeners that bitch killed her daughter one way or some way. She's involved in killing that.
She's
kid.
Connected to this. Yeah. No doubt.
And it's 50-50 on whether the dad and the mom are involved. I mean, like directly involved. I mean, they're definitely involved as in they're hiding something, but like definitely Casey was. So she's definitely a piece of shit. Like 100% should be in jail for something.
Brian Wilson said, Mike is the Ed McMahon today. You are correct, sir. Johnny Carson.
So,
so a reminder. And hey, if you're still tuned in, please hit like and subscribe on the YouTube channel right now.
Shit, let me not be a hypocrite.
Share this. Oh, and GhostBed is the sponsor. We never got to GhostBed today.
God, son of a bitch. Let's just.
We still have 154 people watching. Listen, GhostBed is amazing. Before you cry, before your coitus and confession about killing anybody, make sure it's on a GhostBed. And
look, before we leave, I'm gonna do the best ad read that I've ever done in my whole life. So if you don't hear this, then you're missing out.
While he's doing the ad read, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video.
And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to bring as many people into this ad read as I can. So those who stick around, I'm going to fucking hook you up.
This is a bonus.
It's a boner. It's a bonus. Let's see here. Let me go back to stream. I'm going to see who's in there. Brian Wilson.
Ryan and the Ghost
Yes, I'm old.
Brian Wilson did.
I'm picturing Brian Wilson and Lazaro Lopez with Amber HHH in the middle of a ghost bed, enjoying a nice, fun evening where they had just received 40% off by using that promo code Drinkin' Bros. That's DRINKINBROS. Hydro Man Blue. He bought a Failure to Stop shirt from the website already today, and he shows up at the house. They're laying on the ghost bed, and he's got his new Failure to Stop on. A Failure to Stop shirt on. That's all he's wearing. He's got nothing else on. It's just this shirt. And he paid for all of that with 0 down, 0% financing because he doesn't have Zent's credit. He's got Aviator Boss's credit. That's good credit. It's mediocre at best credit. So he was able to afford this for like fucking $30 a month by using that promo code Drinkin' Bros.
We're gaining viewers right now.
He's getting Corn Pop, the bad dude of Corn Pop. He's like, bitch, you got to throw in that adjustable base. You got to throw in the pillows. So now we're getting 30% off of everything. We're bundling shit. Because that's what we do here. Tyler Durden is a stupid name. It's like, dude, I want to get up on this barrel. Now you've got the entire wolf pack on a ghost bed orgy watching the Casey Anthony documentary.
Meanwhile, Last Row and Sarah are still trying to construct their tent on the ghost bed.
And they're trying to figure out not only who killed Casey Anthony, but who's inside Bill McGordy. Somebody's inside of Bill McGordy. Somebody killed Casey Anthony. All this is taking place on a ghost bed. So we appreciate you. We appreciate
do a 1 hour ghost bed read and you will have 1,000 viewers. We still got to do that. We still got to start our own podcast, the Ad Read podcast. And it's nothing but ad reads.
Go to ghostbed.com.
Forgot Phil McCracken on a ghost bed.
Oh, yeah, you can.
Phil McCracken.
Oh, and I have lost.
Well, welcome our special guest, Mr. Feltersnatch, Howie Feltersnatch.
And Teresa Fulbert and Sarah Kelch kiss on the ghost bed. I don't know why I threw that in there. I don't know what Teresa Fulbert look like, but I'm picturing them right now kissing on the ghost bed.
A Flobert. You got to go to the hardware store. This Flobert's gone bad. You can pick one up at Ace for $2.
After Googling chloroform.
Oh, well, we've officially fallen completely off the rails at the end of this show. Thank you for tuning into the Failure to Stop podcast. If you like it, if you appreciate what we're doing, then hey, tell somebody about the show. That's it, man. And buy a shirt, I guess, failuretostop.com. Until the next show, guns up, giddy up, baby. Can't stop, won't stop.